Hi, I'm Mike Hess, Senior Director of Patient Outreach and Education with the COPD Foundation. It's a pleasure to have an opportunity to speak with you all here today at the TechConnect COVID Spotlight Summit. The ongoing pandemic has illuminated a great many challenges facing the delivery of healthcare: logistical issues, financial burdens, ethical concerns. These challenges existed well before anyone had ever heard of the SARS-CoV-2 virus or COVID-19. And unless we work together to build a better system, they won't simply vanish once the pandemic is declared over. That's why it's so exciting to be part of innovation challenges like this and to see so many incredibly creative potential solutions. See, we in healthcare tend to do things a certain way because, well, as they say, that's the way we've always done it. While this can eventually lead to innovation after a fashion, it's usually of the iterative sort. There's arguably no finer example than in long-term supplemental oxygen therapy. Oxygen concentrators and portable tanks have been used to help people breathe a little easier outside the hospital walls for decades, but the underlying technologies have remained essentially stagnant. We've seen iterative improvements in things like battery life and lighter weight materials, but these devices have, in many cases, remained too bulky and cumbersome to fully realize their promise of helping people live their best lives. Even when people are able to use portable systems to enhance their mobility, they're often reluctant to adhere to these life-preserving therapeutic regimens for myriad other reasons. The interfaces are uncomfortable, service and maintenance are complicated, and worst of all, there's still a certain stigma regarding people who look sick, and it's really difficult to conceal an oxygen tank on your shoulder or a cannula across your face. The issues don't stop with the end users either. Many of the distributors and retailers tasked with delivering and maintaining oxygen equipment are feeling the pinch of years of outmoded reimbursement models with insufficient payment levels. These financial barriers have forced many well-established companies to cut their staffing to the bare minimum, merge with larger conglomerates, or even go out of business altogether. That leaves fewer options for the oxygen-using community, as well as increasing barriers to prompt, reliable customer service, a frightening thought when your life literally depends on that service. Clinicians also face mounting challenges with confusion surrounding best practices in diagnosing hypoxia-related conditions, prescribing supplemental oxygen regimens, and even monitoring people's progress. Despite the opportunities presented by modern electronic health records, patient monitoring, artificial intelligence, and other technological advances, much of the administrative and policy side of providing supplemental oxygen therapy remains rooted in an archaic and inflexible framework, stunting progress and once again preventing people from living their best lives. And to make things even more interesting, the pandemic has added yet another wrinkle. The mechanical ventilators and other high-flow oxygen devices that help save those with the most severe cases of COVID-19 have strained the bulk oxygen delivery infrastructure to its limit. Hospitals around the United States have seen ominous signs of shortages and service interruptions, and a catastrophic event that cost lives is only one critical failure away. As an emergency measure, some hospitals have turned to using oxygen concentrators to supplement their built-in systems, which could in turn potentially lead to worsening logistical issues back in the ambulatory care world, as the very devices meant to keep people going at home suddenly disappear from the supply chain. That's why we at the COPD Foundation are proud to be embarking on a brand new, comprehensive effort to literally remake the world of supplemental oxygen. Iteration is no longer enough. It's time to look at every single aspect of how we provide this critical therapy and make each of those aspects work better for every stakeholder. I like to think of it as a moonshot effort because just like those intrepid scientists, engineers, and explorers of the 1960s, we have a lofty goal that will require a variety of revolutionary solutions and out-of-the-box thinking to achieve. That's where you all come in. I look at today's program and I already see radical innovation that has the potential to drive oxygen therapy in brand new directions, offering new therapeutic options that we clinicians have long dreamed of offering. The drive to breathe is one of our most fundamental urges, yet it often goes overlooked and neglected until that moment comes when it can no longer be ignored. But we no longer will have to rely upon aging technology to help ease the sensation of shortness of breath or to assist recovery. We now clearly have some of the best minds in engineering, chemistry, material science, and many other disciplines bringing their expertise and their knowledge to bear on this issue. Even more importantly, I see synergistic technologies that can one day be integrated in order to create devices the likes of which have only existed in science fiction. I see monitors that can be combined with new oxygen generation techniques and respiratory assistance devices to support someone's breathing demands in real time. I see lightweight, economical equipment that can be easily carried or worn by even those with the most advanced respiratory disorders. And I see an industry on the cusp of true disruption. It may sound like a cliche, but I've always held that cliches become cliches because they're true. And it's absolutely true that the supplemental oxygen landscape is on the verge of becoming something completely new. The COPD Foundation, of course, is ready and excited to do our part with you. While the work you have all done so far has been prompted by COVID-19, it will have an impact far beyond a single disease state. There are many other respiratory conditions that lead to the eventual need for oxygen therapy, such as pulmonary fibrosis, bronchiectasis, and of course our namesake, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The community we represent offers a wealth of knowledge and expertise with current oxygen technology. It is well versed in what works, what doesn't, and what could be better. They've seen a lot of hype about oxygen, and it hasn't always been followed by much hope. We at the Foundation aim to connect our community of patients, caregivers, and clinicians with the greater community of subject matter experts, builders, and doers so that we can all move forward together, working to build that new, better system that we so desperately need. We also know that the best solutions can serve no good unless they get into the hands of the people who need them. That's why we also aim to foster collaborations with every other stakeholder group in the oxygen community. From the distributors and durable medical equipment shops who are tasked with keeping the supply chain healthy, to clinicians who need to be aware of new options for those in their care, and to policymakers who can be tough to convince that new innovations are safe and effective enough to be covered under healthcare benefits. I can't say it enough. We want to build a system that works for everyone, because unless we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, we won't ever get anywhere, and all this innovation will simply go to waste. That's not an option for me, and it's certainly not an option for the millions of people who rely upon, or should be relying upon, oxygen to survive. Of course, this won't be an easy lift. On its face, there are those who would say that this goal is too lofty, the barrier is too complex. They would say that such an ambitious plan is simply impossible. And, if I'm being 100% honest, those doubters could be absolutely correct. It may well be impossible to achieve all of what we're setting out to achieve. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a Star Trek fan even longer than I've been a respiratory therapist. One day, after watching a few of my favorite episodes with my wife, she turned to me and said, "Wow, Star Trek really has had a huge impact on your life, hasn't it?" Turns out that I tend to quote some of my favorite episodes on a fairly regular basis. And it's true that Star Trek has served as a source of ongoing inspiration and comfort, as evidenced behind me here. In this case, I'm inspired by the words of the great starship captain Jean-Luc Picard. Things are only impossible until they are not. That's the challenge I leave you with today. We have a long journey ahead of us. We'll be exploring new frontiers in technology and blazing new trails in patient care. We'll be expanding the mandate of this challenge well beyond COVID-19, and in the process, enhancing the lives of many who have possibly given up hope of saving their breath. It will at times seem like progress is impossible, right up until that moment where it actually becomes real. And we'll all work together to maintain that progress until nobody on Earth has to fight for air anymore. Thank you for all of your efforts so far, and I cannot wait to work together on what comes next.